I never thought I'd get abducted." Then the guy reached over and grabbed my arm. He said, "Don't worry, you're not going to be taken anywhere." Thank God he didn't take me anywhere. I don't remember the last time I was kidnapped, but the man's eyes were boring into mine, and it felt like he was crazy. I couldn't help but wonder if this was it, if I was going to get taken. Instead, we drove around for hours and he just kept talking. Finally, he dropped me off and I ran to safety. It turns out the man wasn't a kidnapper at all. He was a private investigator hired by my wife. Now imagine if the private investigator had actually tried to take me, and I fought back and accidentally killed him. Would I be guilty of murder? Well, a Canadian woman named Cindy James had something very similar happen to her, and once the private investigator was dead, the police had no idea what happened. In today's video, we'll look at a baffling case where a man was found dead and the woman accused of killing him couldn't remember doing it. So let's jump in. Cindy James was a 44-year-old nurse from Vancouver, Canada. By all accounts, she was kind, intelligent, and well-liked. But behind her smile, she lived in constant fear, a fear that would only grow worse until it ended in one of Canada's most disturbing unsolved cases. It all began in 1982, shortly after Cindy separated from her husband. She started getting unusual phone calls. Sometimes the line would go silent the moment she answered. Other times, there was nothing but the sound of heavy breathing. And then came the whispers, low, threatening words, often too faint to fully understand. But what terrified Cindy the most was that the caller seemed to know things. They described details of what she was wearing. They hinted at where she had been earlier that day. Whoever it was, they were watching. Soon, the harassment moved beyond phone calls. Notes began appearing on her doorstep, scribbled words meant to frighten her. She also found unsettling objects placed around her home. One night she returned to find her phone lines cut. Her friends began noticing her growing anxiety. At social gatherings, Cindy often glanced over her shoulder, as if expecting someone to appear. She told them again and again, "Someone is stalking me. Someone is trying to hurt me." The police opened an investigation, but despite years of reports and evidence Cindy presented, no one was ever arrested. There was never enough proof. As the years passed, Cindy changed her phone number multiple times. She even adopted a dog for protection, but it too was found harmed in mysterious circumstances. By this point, Cindy was exhausted. Friends recall that she often looked pale, however, or was she somehow involved in creating this situation herself? The case divided opinion. She had told friends earlier that the stalker was closing in on her. 2 weeks later, she was discovered outside an abandoned house in Richmond. The circumstances were strange. There was no clear evidence pointing to who or what had caused her death. The autopsy revealed the presence of drugs in her system, but this only deepened the mystery. If she had been murdered, how could she have been tied up and left there without anyone seeing? If it was suicide, how could she have restrained herself so carefully? The official ruling was undetermined. The community was divided. Others suggested she may have created the incidents herself. Struggling with inner battles no one fully understood. Theories that remain over the years. 3 main theories have emerged. She was tormented by someone who knew her every move. When the police couldn't protect her, she was eventually killed, and her stalker got away without leaving a trace. The psychological theory, some psychologists suggested Cindy may have been suffering from mental health struggles. They believe she may have created the incidents herself, consciously or unconsciously, and that her final moments were the result of her own actions. The conspiracy theory, others think the truth lies somewhere in between. Perhaps Cindy knew who the stalker was, but was too afraid to reveal it. Perhaps there were multiple people involved. What makes this case so confusing is that normally you can tell when someone is lying. But in this case, it appears Cindy was telling the truth, but no one believed her. If you've seen any true crime shows, you'll know that when someone is being stalked, it's best to move. But Cindy moved multiple times and the stalking followed her. This suggests she was being stalked by someone she knew. But why would a loved one keep stalking her even after she changed her phone numbers and address? Well, let's talk about the theory that Cindy created these events herself. If this was true, why would Cindy make up such a scary scenario? Well, perhaps it was an unconscious thing. Maybe she struggled with severe anxiety and created these scenarios in her head. This would explain why she was found tied up and why there was no signs of violence. If she did this to herself, why would she kill herself? The third theory is that someone close to Cindy was stalking her and she knew them. However, maybe she was trying to figure out who it was. After all, and according to Statistics Canada, 1/3 of women and 1/7 of men have been stalked at least once in their lifetime. But why do stalkers stalk? Well, there's a few reasons. For example, some people are obsessed with celebrities and they stalk them because they want to meet them. Others stalk people out of pure hatred. According to a study conducted by Dr. David M. Schulberg, many stalkers have mental disorders and can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy. But what if I told you that Cindy wasn't the only one in this relationship? What if her stalker had a stalker of his own? Now this might sound confusing, but bear with me. Cindy called the police multiple times and reported the harassment, and every time the police showed up, the officers would ask her if she had any enemies, if she could think of anyone who would want to harm her. How would she have known that her stalker was being stalked himself? Let's think about this. Imagine you're a private investigator and you're hired to follow someone. Let's call him Mark. Mark thinks he's being followed by a stalker, and every time he calls the police, he tells them that he doesn't know who it is. Well, as the private investigator following Mark, you hear him talking to the police and you realize, wait a second, Mark thinks he's being stalked, but he doesn't know it's me. Do you reveal yourself at this point? No. Why? Because you don't want to scare off your client. You don't want him to know you're there because you're being paid to follow him. The same goes for Cindy's stalker. Every time he called the police, he heard Cindy say that she didn't know who her stalker was. So instead of revealing himself, he continued stalking her. The man who was found dead outside the house with Cindy was a private investigator hired to follow Cindy, but who hired him? Was it Cindy's stalker who finally snapped and killed the private investigator? Did Cindy's stalker have a stalker of his own? Or was it Cindy who killed the private investigator? The answer is unclear. But what do you think happened? Was Cindy the victim of a relentless stalker, or was the battle raging inside her own mind? All I know is that Cindy spent the last years of her life in constant fear, and when she died, the mystery only deepened. But the chilling question still lingers. Was Cindy running from someone real, or from something no one else could see? Now, before you go, here's another video that I think you'll like. These people disappeared without a trace.